Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cactus Patch. I am your host, GlitchedCactus, but you can call me Cactus. And today we have a fantastic episode prepared for you today, looking over the 20XX qualifiers and the teams that have recently qualified. We have back again the head TOs of 20XX, Litblu and Baha. Please introduce yourselves to the viewers.
Hi.
Hi. Oh,
You go first.
th-
No, you go
dang
first.
it. Okay. Hi, I'm Litblu. I used to play this game. Now I just TO because I got bad at the game, and I'm
Hi,
old.
I'm Baha. I also used to play this game, but I'm different, so I'm still good at the game. And
Oh
I now
shit!
also I
That's
now also
crazy.
just only TO.
Oh, I love it. And for those who maybe want more information on both Baja and Litblu, this is their second time on the podcast. So if you want to find out more about them, feel free to check out the previous episode. But as they said, and as I said, they are TOs, retired comp players who used to play on the same team together. So if you want, again, more information on that, the previous episode is waiting for you. But today we're going to be talking about the the qualifiers, right? They're finally over. We're on to the finale. So the first question I gotta ask is, so far, how has been running 20XX?
It's
Uh,
been a lot.
yeah, I
It,
will.
it
I will
Valid,
it's
say.
valid.
I will say, compared to our work, probably on every other. This is probably more work than every other 20X series combined,
Mhm.
including the ones before Dapple took over and before Litblu. Like I'm counting every single one, so all five.
yeah, it's definitely been a lot. Just because there's just so much to do, and when you think about the qualifiers, you're essentially hosting three like miniature majors
Mhm.
back to back to back. And then you have to get all these players organized from different places in the world. So it's definitely been a lot of work, but I've still had some fun. I still think it's been a cool thing. I'm just really happy the qualifiers are over, and I'm ready to for the league to begin.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Like you said it best. I think it's three mini qualifiers repeatedly, and instead of preparing for just one and having to deal with all those potential issues that you could have, it's like just like it's broken down separately, which is for one, major props and huge thank you to both of you for doing what you do. I mean, I can't imagine running a one major, let alone three somewhat miniature ones repeatedly each weekend. So you guys deserve a massive props, both you two and everyone else that's on like the TO team and staffing. Like huge props and just huge thank you for what you do. Because, like again, from as someone who's like dabbled a little bit into what the side of TOing looks like, and a little bit of helping with like streams, and also just viewing like it from like an outsider perspective, it's a lot, and y'all do incredible stuff. So for real.
Also wanted to just add on to that. We want to thank Brownie, Joyan, who are our two main streamers for the qualifiers. They also are going to help a bit with the league as well. And also, of course, Pinky, who does a lot of work. Um, Pinky does most of our graphics and all those sort of things, and a lot of the organization things as well. So they bring in just a lot of help and a lot of support, and they are phenomenal.
Yeah, I love that we have so many players that are just people in the community that are able to do so much and help wherever needed. It's beautiful, it's amazing, and stuff that's not amazing is problems that come up during something new like this, something where you go instead of having one major, it's split up. So, what are some challenges that you guys had to face when it's come to 20XX this time around?
Uh, I would first say probably one of the biggest challenges is, well, one, getting people to show up to each event, just a thing, because and then like you said, running three events. So one of the things this time was that we ran it on Sundown, whereas every other 20XX beforehand was ran on Battlefy.
Okay.
So we had to learn how to use Sundown.ink, and it's a great site, but it's kind of different learning how to run a tournament on a different website.
Yeah.
and then on top of that, just making sure. I will say from we really, I guess maybe because of how the event's aimed at, but I'm surprised we didn't have as many people in help desk as like a regular 20xx.
Mm-hmm.
Where but I guess maybe that's just because instead of having 100+ teams on one day, it's split up. Like maybe there's 20 qualifier 1, 20 qualifier 2, 30 qual 3, sort of. So it's split up more.
Kind of going off of what Baha said about the website, we found this one thing live where, so with the way our counter system worked, it was essentially you can counter any mode as long as the map wasn't previously played. However, the sendout site didn't allow that. So that was something that we figured out pretty quickly. That was a bit unfortunate. So we had to kind of skirt around that there. And it was my first time TOing a sendout tournament was the first qualifier for 20xx. So that was an interesting experience as well. In terms of like other difficulties, I think it's also just like I think the main hard thing is just it's a lot to think of, and
Mhm.
it's like, oh cool, we have the first qualifier. Guess what? We're back here next weekend. Oh, we're also back here the next
Yeah.
weekend as well.
Yeah.
And then oh, the qualifiers are over. Yippee! Oh, we have all this other
Oh yeah,
stuff
we
that we
now
haven't
have
done
to
yet.
set up everything. Yeah. So it's like usually after 20xx, it's like, all right, guys, see you all in like a month after we take our break of all right, we just healed. Whereas now it's like, all right, guys, we finished healing. See you all in 7 days.
Yeah.
Yep. Go back again. Run it back.
Yeah, I mean, so that's so with running it now on Sendu, which is like probably the biggest difference that was mentioned. Besides like those like minor things, for overall, did like the site from a TO perspective seem pretty like TO friendly, and pretty easy to kind of get a use out of? Because I know Start GG can be a hassle.
I would say that yeah, overall it was really easy to use for the most part. Besides like the obvious thing where we didn't know that our counter pick system didn't necessarily work on Sundown
Yeah.
until. But other than that, I mean, setting it up was pretty easy. Seeding was probably the easiest it's ever been. I wish Start GG and Battlefy had seeding go the way it's done in Sundown. And then I mean everything else ran smoothly. The site didn't crash because I know Start GG has crashed during majors before.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't miss those.
I think yeah, especially with the seeding, how it automatically seeds based on like send out queue.
And
Mhm.
like
Power.
obviously, sorry, I'll let you finish.
No, no, you go, you go, you go.
I was gonna say like obviously we know we changed the seating around a little bit, but beforehand with like old 20xx's, we would do it all manually, which means that it's usually me and Litblu sitting in a VC for like an hour, 30 minutes, 2 hours, like 2 days before. Like, and this includes going through teams that we think might enter. So like if we see like a team who has like two of their members and they're missing the other two and we think they're gonna sign up last second, we'll still seed them.
Mhm.
So it's us all manually doing that. And then that leads to issues like we'll always I think every single 20xx since the third one has underseeded someone who gets like top 16 and they're like seed 40 something because it turns out that they only play in like the German or French leagues and they're like objectively better than half the players, but they only play German or French leagues, so we wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Or it's just Surskit in his,
Or
in
yeah,
that
or
case.
Surskit
Yeah.
just decides to play. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, maybe I should just start seeding Surskit higher.
Yeah, the CD is definitely easy. I also like just how it's so integrated with Splatoon. That's obviously a positive since it's just made for Splatoon. You can have like images of the map show up and all that. Um, it's also nice because I like it for streaming. It's very easy to get in locked sets for streams.
Mhm.
You can even have multiple perspectives and lock it for like each. So for like the qualifiers, we had a Dapple stream and an IPL stream. So we were able to say like, okay, this is the Dapple set. This is going to be the IPL set. So that stuff was really nice. I could definitely see why almost every tournament nowadays uses it.
Yeah, I mean that's awesome. I'm glad to hear that for a user experience from a TO perspective, it was a lot easier. It was a lot better to manage. It seemed like if any problems kind of arose, it was quicker to like understand and fix. Unlike Start GG where it's like if something goes wrong, it's like you're praying for a fix. It's hard to kind of go around it, but Sendu made it pretty simple and there was no crashes. And um, I did want to touch a little bit on what Baha mentioned earlier about like the whole help desk thing. I think qualifying, like separating into qualifiers, that had to have helped just a ton because for one, most players that were entering, most teams that entered were like for the most part like mid to high level with a couple low level probably tossed in there. And also you have teams that can like decide when they want to enter, right? So like obviously some teams like me like, oh, well, it's our last qualifier, or I can only be free for the second qualifier. So it's a lot more dispersed for teams to be able to compete and actually join in on the event, rather than everyone just trying to funneling in on that one weekend where it's like hundreds of teams and split into like thirds or fourths, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that saves any high usage of Tylenol for that day.
See,
Yeah.
yeah.
And like you gotta mention it, since this is very much like a high level sort of event. Um, not not trying to be mean, but I feel like a lot of your questions and like help desk issues tend to come from people that are less experienced with the game.
Mm-hmm.
So because this tournament was so catered to that higher level, um, it made it so that it just made help desk easier because people kind of knew what they're going into and what they're doing.
I think a good way to put it is that a lot of 20xx's sometimes we get people where it's like this is their first tournament, and one, thank you first off for this being your first tournament. Second
Yeah.
off, why is this your first tournament?
Yeah.
So like obviously they're gonna ask questions. I want to make it clear I don't actually mind helping people in help desk, but at least with it being a league with qualifiers, you're not gonna make this your first tournament. And if you're like a lower level player, you're probably not gonna be like, unless obviously you want to. And again, we did have some lower level teams play, which shout outs to them. But you're probably not gonna end up playing if you don't think you can at least maybe get a qualifying spot for the most part.
Yeah.
Or if you're either playing because you want to get a qualifying spot or because you see all these strong teams that you want to get practice against playing. So you're going to join so you can fight them and then maybe also get a qualifying spot.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the reasons like the team I'm on currently why we entered the first qualifier. One, besides all of us being available that weekend, the other reason was like we saw a lot of these strong teams and we saw opportunities for one, great practice, and two, the belief that we had potential to at least take one or two, maybe three if we're lucky, of these teams onto either game fives or like take a set. So um but yeah, it's amazing to see like some players that one, if it's their first tournament, they're giving it a shot at like this kind of higher level expectation. I know some teams just also like if they're newer teams don't realize exactly the type of teams that are entering some events. So um it could be a little like challenging at first because they could enter and the first team they have to fight is like FT win.
I think I've actually done that to someone before. They're like, "Why am I the seed?" I'm like, "You guys are new," and they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "I can't wait to fight this team," and it's FT win, and I just gotta sit there like, "Yep, have fun."
Yeah. Enjoy the game.
All 3 seconds of the set.
And it happens, but sometimes you know what, that gives players the opportunity to be like, you know what, maybe next time I'll play something a little bit more my
I
speed.
don't know if teams have trolled before, but I've definitely seen like a high seed team lose like a game, and I sometimes get very confused and like I'll go check the VOD and they're not trolling, and I'll be like, this game's so volatile.
It just takes them not being locked in. They have to have the gamer lean just forward in
Yeah.
their chair, like, all right, wait, we gotta lock in, guys. So aside from challenges, for these qualifiers, what are some favorite moments that you've had with the qualifiers thus far?
I don't know if this counts as a favorite moment technically, but I will say I think it was very sad and funny in a sad way watching Duck Motif get fourth every single all three. Was it fourth all three? Did they get fourth in the LCQ?
Yes, they got fourth in every single qualifier, and I
Yeah,
feel
so
kind of bad for them.
I
No.
yes, I mean, I'm sure we'll talk about like the teams later that qualified, but just seeing Duck Motif show up all 3 times, which good on them for showing up all 3 times.
Yeah.
They almost got it 2 times in a row. So that was a big thing. Seeing the teams that did end up qualifying was also interesting because there were some that I thought would qualify that didn't, and then others who I was like they probably won't qualify who did. And again, that I guess that goes more so into when we talk about the teams later.
My favorite moment from the league was last chance qualifier grand finals. If for those that didn't watch, spoiler, it went to game 10. To me, that was one of the best. I think that's gonna go down as one of the best sets of the year. Just a really cool, really fun set, and I got really hyped for it. So, and it's cool because it was the last chance qualifier, because only one team made it, because whoever won that set went on to go to the league, and it just added the stakes, it added the hype. Everyone was going crazy in chat, so that was probably my favorite moment, and it made me feel like, yes, this was the right decision to have the last qualifier only have one team spot.
I remember watching that last qualifier, that grand finals. I don't think I've ever been like, yeah, people say like, oh, I'm in the edge of my seat as like a just like a saying, but like I literally was like standing in my chair, like who is going to take this every game? Just for it to just keep going. It literally went to the max like distance possible, which is incredible. And it's literally like a 1 in a billion chance you see something like that happen in a tournament. Because most events where it's like, you see a bracket reset, the other team usually ends up sweeping. It's not every day you get to see an event like this where stakes are extremely high, teams are giving it their 110% all, and you're going to game 10.
Yeah, it was special. It was really special.
So, expectations for the league versus the reality of how it turned up. How did it hold up? So, from like how you were expecting it to go versus how it ended up go, would you say you were pretty spot on how you were expecting it to be, or were there some things that were like, oh, you know what? I mean, that ended up better, or that ended up worse than we were hoping?
You can go first on this one. Look what I'm thinking.
Oh, okay. I think for me, I didn't know. Well, going in, I didn't know exactly what to expect. I thought that, maybe we might have a few more teams signed up, but honestly, I'm not mad at that at all. Like again, the best team showed up, and that's who's this tournament is for. Um, but yeah, I think for the qualifiers, they um went over pretty damn well. They're actually easier to TO than I think I expected them to. I was really stressed about it, like, oh, we're gonna have like 50 teams signed up, and it's gonna be chaotic mess. And but honestly, they were pretty easy to run. The only thing was just like how long it takes to run them. These are long double bracket, double elo bracket tournaments, and you're doing one all the time. So that part was, like I said before, a little difficult. But in terms of expectations, I think it went over pretty dang well.
I mean, yeah, I would basically echo the same thing as Litblu. I just expected maybe slightly more things. I'm not upset with the number that ended up showing up for the qualifiers. Again, the best teams that the event was aimed for all showed up and they all played. So at the end of the day, I mean, I don't think I could be disappointed with how it ended up at all.
Yeah, it's awesome. I mean, I'm glad to hear that, you know, what is the most expectations for the most part were pretty on spot, and it's good to hear that for the most part things were running pretty well. Obviously, like what Blue just said about the time spent for each one is pretty much like your whole day, which is to be expected with these kind of events, especially when it's so like repeatedly back to back to back to back. But that's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that from expectations to reality, things were really good, and here we are. We're finished with qualifiers finally. There's a little bit of breathing room until now. Finals coming up this Sunday, which we'll talk a little bit more later.
Well,
But,
group one, not
or
actual.
group one.
Yeah,
Sorry,
day
group
one.
one final. Group one. Sorry, let me
Like week one,
rephrase.
yeah, week one.
Rephrase. Week 1, we got full of September still left. So since we are moving on to the groups of finals, what are you most forward to looking to?
Hold on, I now gotta go look up the groups without actually technically spoiling them because I don't remember who's fighting who off the top of my head.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
absolutely.
can you repeat your question again?
Yeah,
What was
so
it?
qualifiers are finished, right? Now we're finally on to the finals of the rest of the month of or into September. So obviously each group is gonna be separated again into each weekend. What are you most looking forward to when it's gonna come to these group matches of the teams that qualified?
Honestly, for me, I'm just very curious. I I feel pretty confident that there's some teams that are going to be more on the lower end and some teams that are going to be on the higher end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in terms of like the spots, I honestly feel like I feel like the top two teams in each group are probably going to make it through. But I feel like the other spots are kind of like up for grabs, and I'm really curious to see like what team is going to step up and if there's any teams that have been like really grinding and practicing a lot and they might get some surprises. Um, I'm also really excited because I'm excited to see how this fosters the scene a bit and fosters top level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Kind of like a more of a long-term thing, but I hope a lot of these players during the tournament and after the tournament's done keep playing together and keep grinding and continue to strive to better themselves as players.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I'll agree with that. I think, like Litblu said, I think there's two teams that if they don't make it to the WLM Grand Finals for the league are that's going to be a very very big what's the word, upset. There we
Drama.
go. So, drama upset. Like do we pull out the washed, like the my goats washed banners for that?
Or like the what's the
But
chat message where it's like my mom asked if I did the dishes. I told them the team's name. She
I
knew they
my
were watched.
my mom asked if I did the dishes. I shouted Metro. She knew they were washed. If Metro and Grogu don't qualify for finals, and I will say those two are separated from which I think everyone figured they would be separated from their groups.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
Yeah.
be very surprised if they don't qualify. But I think the other two spots, because two teams from each group go, so it's top four teams go to finals. I think the other two spots are kind of up in the air. I think you could make a better case for some than others, but I think there is an equal shot for all of them that end up making it, which is actually kind of surprising because I feel like with leagues like this, sometimes you kind of end up in a, oh well, there's really only 5 teams that actually matter. The other, like, how many teams are just there just to be there basically. But I could pretty much say this time that even the pickups are actually all pretty strong, and I could see them taking games off the top teams or even just sets.
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorite eras of Splatoon 3 where we have an opportunity where a lot of top level is pretty neck and neck right now. And obviously right now we have no defining, you know, NA champion, right? We have no team that's kind of like one above the all. A lot of teams are able to take games off of each other and everyone's striving for that, that podium. They want that number one, I'm the best title, and it's really cool seeing all these teams here to compete for this. And this league, I think, was like the best opportunity to start shining this through, and not just like a 1 day event, because you had teams that obviously for the two qualifiers it was a top 3 teams, so you had teams that were fighting out through there. And then, of course, the last qualifier, whatever remaining teams were trying to compete for that spot, they all were showing up. So it's really incredible to see how close these matches could be coming up for the group stages of the finals. It's especially from the qualifiers, we had a lot of close matches. There are some rivalries that are going on between a lot of teams, which is really fun to see. I know one that stands out to me right away is Moonlight and Celeste. I mean, when I interviewed Moonlight last week, they have said they've taken games and sets off of majority, if not all, the teams that have currently qualified. except Celeste. So they are going in not only for revenge, but also the W on their mind. They want to win everything. And of course, Celeste is aiming on still being the best, taking everyone down that they can. So I love it. I love these little mini rivalries. This allows some time for it to build up too. So all these teams are getting a lot of practice in. So yeah, this is going to be exciting. It's going to be an exciting time for Splatoon 3.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's the big thing is that there's no like defining like if we held a league say like even like 6 months ago, everyone would be like, oh well, this one team's clearly better than everybody else, so they're probably gonna win. But we don't really have a defining team, I guess. I mean, there's a couple players that you could say are like clearly above
Yeah.
maybe the others, but there's no like team, if that makes sense, where I'm like, oh well, this team's just so much better than everybody else. We don't have our FT win or our Starburst where they're just better than everybody else. Anything they enter, they just automatically win. And sometimes it's a little bit close, but they still end up winning in the end.
Yeah.
Whereas now we have teams sort of trading wins and stuff right now.
I'm really excited. I'm here for the energy. I'm here for the drama, and I think we've sorry, if you've followed the Dapple Twitter, you've seen every day we post a few new announcements. So we're gonna have a few more announcements every day for the rest of the week. So just like going over the teams and everything and seeing people get hyped for it. I think it's gonna be really exciting, and I can't wait to see the energy once we start on Sunday.
I actually do want to take a moment to appreciate those posts for the teams because some of them have like really funny sayings from the teams. What was one that I saw that was like real pretty good? Oh yeah, it
There's a
was
few
yeah,
fucking
there's some good
ones.
ones. My favorite one I saw like recently was the Headlow fan club one where at the end they're just like long live the Subway $5 footlong.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
like I
love
like
that.
I like the Moonlight one as well. That's like got Kraken nerfed. So that was
Yeah.
good. So that was part of Pinky's idea, I believe, if I'm not wrong, to get quotes from every team. So just kind of a fun little quick way to show some fun and some personality.
Yeah, it gives the uniqueness. There's more to the team than just their title. There's players behind it, and a lot of them like to have a good laugh themselves, and you love to see that. You love to see some giving either serious quotes or others that it's just like, yeah, we're here, smile.
And I now just realized that their logos are behind them on those. I didn't even notice that
Oh, you
before.
didn't know that, Baha? Come
No,
on.
I just noticed the logos are faded into the background.
You need some glasses.
I'm wearing them.
You need to get better glasses. I
Yeah,
would
that's
say.
probably. I just got better glasses actually. Wait,
Say, are you using a Game Boy Micro to look at Twitter?
no,
That's
sadly.
crazy. Not the Game Boy Micro.
But yeah, I think again one of the things that I think the scene's been lacking, and that was one of the reasons we decided to make the league was a sort of what's the word here?
Story?
Personality? Yeah, storyline personality. Like
Lore.
there, yeah,
Team
like
lore. Yeah.
I love
No, I
the
like
lore because
that.
sometimes I watch like big tournaments, like I'll watch a Sendiki final, and I like the gameplay and stuff, but I'm not really invested in who wins. It's sort of like, oh well, this team won, okay, and like it didn't always used to be like that. Especially back during like Tassel. I think Tassel's probably the big one where people will remember where there you were picking your favorite team, you were cheering for your favorite team, and you would show up to their matches, and even if you weren't going to necessarily watch all the other matches, you would make sure that you watched all that team's matches. And I think having that in this community helps grow the scene, and two shows that we're not dead per se.
Yeah.
Like there's still hype going on, and we can still show up when we need to or want to.
Yeah, I mean, and as somebody who follows majority of the top players that play in certain like majors or events, um, I know a lot of people will just kind of look to those player individuals like Twitters if they know the player, or they've seen them around the scene long enough, right? Sometimes they'll like a lot of teams like when they win, players individually will tweet out like a tough loss or like let's go, I'm better, built different, I'm the best, things like that. So it's like you get their hype, but also you've been following that player for a while, so you know what to look for. But for those that maybe don't continuously like follow the scene like that, having something like this where you're able to kind of give a little bit more uniqueness and personality to these teams, to these players, to their profile pictures, to their names. It allows people to kind of have favorites, right? People that they want to cheer for, that they want to win. Similar how like with the Ink TV Resurgence League, you had all those moments where it was like, they had those like kind of mini team interviews where it was kind of like telling you the story about them, what they've accomplished, and then also you've had them say stuff to their own accord where they said themselves like we're gonna win, we're gonna be the best, we're gonna hold a title, and then next thing you know you have a crazy upset of the year. So it's it's awesome that this league has allowed for that personality to build for these teams, and now people are gonna go into watching some of these group matches throughout the month and have teams they're personally rooting for, whether because they know them or they saw them play and got to know a little bit more about them. All right, so because we're on the topic of the teams, and huge shout out to Litblu for coming up with the idea. What are the teams that have currently qualified that you were surprised to see qualify for the league?
You want to go first, Look, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go first.
I was like, I might make people upset.
Well, that's why we're here. We're here to create drama. We're here to get canceled.
That's crazy.
But so there is a lot of teams here that I feel like are similar melting pot. I will say, I don't mean this as a negative thing, but I'm very happy that Henlo Fan Club qualified because, to be honest, I did not expect them to qualify in the LCQ. There was a lot of really, really stacked teams, and they were like seed 5 or 6. But I didn't expect them to go out and win the whole team, beating like a team like Facade that's really strong and beating a
Didn't
few
they
other
go to
teams that were there.
losers? I'm
What?
checking now because didn't Henlo Fan Club go to losers pretty? Yeah, they lost to
Yeah, they
Facade
did.
3-0 earlier that
Mhm.
day, so they got 3-0'd by Facade, and I guess they figured it out.
Yeah, but yeah, like you said, I think they just got their comp together and we're just like, okay, we know what we're doing now. We feel comfortable now. Um, yeah, I was just really impressed by Henlo Fan Club, and I know a lot of the players pretty well. Um, so that was a team that I was really happy to see qualify. That to be honest, not in a disrespectful way, I didn't see qualifying.
I think Henlo Fan Club especially is impressive because after they lost to Facade, was it 3-0? They didn't lose a single game till grand finals after that, in which they went 3-2, 3-2. So actually, did they lose any games other than to Facade? No. So Henlo Fan Club literally only lost to Facade, which I mean that was the top two. So what else? Another team that I'm actually surprised qualified, and it's on Omega's YouTube channel is Moonlight, because they pulled that comp. What was it? Was like Carbon Roller, Double Cooler, and a 96 gal. And if
No, it was
I
Squeezer that got him that far as well. They
well,
played a
okay,
lot of
I
Squeezer
think
there.
they played Squeezer and 96, but they
Yeah.
pulled that comp that I think they said this. They had only been practicing that comp for like, I want to say like not even a week at that point. So that was sort of like a last ditch effort, and I mean it worked really really well. It ended up getting them to third place, so they qualified. So that was really big for me when I saw them qualify after switching to that comp. And I think Moonlight in that regard is actually my dark horse team, because I mean, if you've been around this Splatoon community for a while now, I think I've heard this said every single time when Moonlight's on stream, you always hear they're one step away from their big break where they beat somebody. or where they beat like the big team at the time and become champions. And they've gotten close so many times. I honestly want to say, I think this might be the time they get the closest.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, right? So, wow, my train of thought just left my brain. I mean, Moonlight had that moment in Low Tide City where they were able to take a set off Starburst, right? That Starburst pickup, and send it to a bracket reset, which was incredible. And like you said, they're close. They're right there, and this might be their opportunity to shine above it all, and claim victory over certain teams, if not the whole event. And um, it's interesting to see for teams that you guys were expected to see, like a Henley fan club being the last team to qualify. I think was a shocker for a lot of people too, because of just a lot of the teams that were competing. So speaking of teams that were competing, what about teams that you were shocked that didn't qualify?
Okay, well, we mentioned Duck Motif already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel bad. I obviously, for those that didn't know, they weren't playing with their full roster for the second qualifier and for the LCQ. I am curious though. I wouldn't be shocked if they did actually have their full rosters, that they probably would have qualified.
I feel like second qualifier. I almost wonder if Red Shell, because Red Shell was the one that was missing, I believe, because
Yeah.
he had plans and he just couldn't make it. So I almost wonder if Red Shell was there, would they had qualified? Like maybe not won the tournament per se, but I feel like would that have been the difference? I got them third place, which would have been a qualifying spot.
Mm. I especially
Uh,
thought after the first week they probably would have, but
Yeah, that's the other
yeah.
thing. After, I will say also that the team that won the second qualifier, I didn't even expect to qualify. I'm gonna be honest, and I'm friends with Nilla and Hemo, so that kid fan club just getting straight up first, and I think they also did it in a they did it in a pretty convincing fashion also. So I think they only ever dropped one game to any team they fought. Otherwise, it was just 3-0s or 3-1. So it was 3-0, 3-1, 2-0, whatever. So them winning was actually a pretty big shock. I don't think anyone expected them to at least win. Maybe get qualifying spot because they're all good, individually good players. But winning the whole event was a shock to me.
Yeah, they were
Uh,
seeded 5th in that tournament.
I think
They were seeded 5th.
another team that didn't qualify, and it looks like they at least played in the first two calls. I don't know if they played the last chance. How do you say this? It's like F equals negative GMM divided by R squared.
Gravity equation. I think is what they went
Okay,
by on
That's
the call
okay.
incredible.
thing.
I remember that name. Yeah.
It's a gravity equation. They got seventh and fifth, which obviously not qualifying, but that's actually pretty consistent overall.
Yeah.
So shout outs to them for doing consistent. Trying and actually I'm looking at all the things now. You can go ahead,
So
Litblu, sorry.
I will say, obviously, when it comes to where the game is at right now, there isn't a lot of like teams per se. There's a lot of like pickup
Yeah.
groups.
Yeah.
Um, I was surprised that we didn't see like a kind of comp diff kind of pickup. I'm surprised we didn't see one of those pickup groups qualify.
Who's
I'm
on
also
Compton?
That's like Urza's pickup.
Okay,
Um,
okay.
so I was also a little surprised that we only saw Aoshi Tenshi once. But unfortunately they weren't able to qualify as well. Also, no, we didn't get a Zeros pickup qualify, so it's uh kind of interesting and kind of crazy to think about how here's this big league where there's all these great teams, but Zeros is not on a roster on any of them. It's probably one of the best Western players right now, so
I think I was gonna say Ice and Bagel not showing up. I
Hmm.
don't know if Brand's still active. I know Starburst is only 3 right now, but I think Bagel got added to Gugu's roster, if I remember.
yeah.
So
So Bagel's gonna play with Guru maybe for like a week as like a sub.
yeah,
Um,
so at least Bagel showing up. I'm surprised that Brand, Ice, Bagel didn't try to get a fourth to fall because that probably would have just been a free qualifier for them. I would assume.
Hmm.
Um, Another one I'm surprised, and I see this now is the EU pickup of like Trizzy, Illis, like just a Trizzy pickup didn't even get close to qualifying. I think the highest they got was 5th, which is very surprising to me because those are all +1 players that have been in +1 for years at this point, since like the beginning for some of them, basically. So them not qualifying is very surprising. But yeah, like Litblu said, there's not as many teams per se. There's a bunch of pickup groups. So like
Yeah, of like individual players. Yeah.
like Henlo Fan Club, when they qualified, they had played the other couple weeks, being like 4th and 5th, and with different things. And when they picked up Len, I guess because maybe one of them wasn't free and Len just happened to be free, they ended up qualifying. So yeah, I guess. And then again, like I said, Facade ended up barely not qualifying, and I almost wonder because I think they only played the LCQ. I almost wonder if they what would happen if they had ended up playing one of the other two.
Honestly, I think if they played every one, I think there was a good chance they'd qualify. Like again, like they went to Game 10 against Henlo Fan Club. They're a very, very strong team. Um, but like yeah, like you said, they only played in one tournament. They're going to play. Actually, they're signed up for the first one.
I think
I
something
believe
came
for
up.
a
They were
while.
busy. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
they
I
just
think they
got
just
busy.
got busy, and that is one thing with the tournament with the qualifiers. You know, we do have 3 of them, which is good and nice. So you have opportunities to play. But sometimes your schedules aren't gonna line up,
Yeah.
so that stuff can happen.
Other than that, I mean, everyone who should have qualified, everyone who like you would expect to qualify to like an FT win ish pickup. Metro, obviously, which is I'll say Zenith pickup, Yosho Zenith pickup. Celeste, obviously,
Mhm.
and then I think people expected Moonlight to qualify. I don't think there was any way Moonlight didn't qualify per se. I'm just surprised. Maybe people thought they wouldn't qualify in the first one and had to do the second or third one, but I mean they got it over with pretty fast. So
Yeah.
so like every team that you expected to BT Dex qualified. So besides like I guess honestly the 2 fan club teams are probably the ones that are the ones where you're like, oh, they qualified over like say Facade or Duck Motif.
Mhm. What about like placements, right? Because like obviously for the first 2 qualifiers, you had the top 3 qual, and then of course the last one was just like one team qual. But for the first 2 qualifiers, were any teams that you were shocked with their placement? Whether that was like who finished in first, who finished second and third?
Like Baha kind of
Qual,
said earlier, I
mhm.
think the main one was that Kid Fan Club.
Yeah, winning qual too.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
But like no, like first qual, I mean, it was Gregory, Celeste, Moonlight, which were they the top 3 seed?
They were the first, second, and third seeds. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they qualled exactly on their seed. I want to say, like all 3 qualled exactly their seed, so that was expected. But that kid fan club was seed 5 and ended up just destroying the entire tournament. So that was a very big what's happening here moment. And then obviously LCQ, there's only one spot, but the fact that Facade didn't end up qualifying, I don't know what seed they were off the top of my head, but
I think they were like I didn't see. Okay, I will say I probably should have seeded them higher, in hindsight. But there's a lot of good teams. I think they were like 5th seed, and I think Kenlo was
seed
5th
4.
seed. Yeah, seed 4. Okay.
Yeah, so like the top 3 seeds for the LCQ just didn't qualify.
Mhm.
And like in fact, third seed's the one that got third. Seed 1 and 2 didn't even get for or I think one was 4th, one was 5th.
Yeah.
So
I think
that
part of
was
that.
also a big shock.
I think part of that shows is like there's a lot of when it comes to the current era of Splatoon, it's a little unpredictable.
Mhm.
You know, you're not sure what's gonna happen, and I think a lot of the times, like the I guess the young blood, so to speak, is rising to the top. I think we're seeing that a good bit as well.
I think current like high top level Splatoon, there's like obviously it's always been like this, but there's sort of like a tier. So there's like your Zenith pickups, your FT Win pickups, and those are like the 12-ish players that make up those groups are kind of like the that any combination of these players will probably win or at least get top 3 in anything they enter.
Yeah.
And then after that, you have like almost like 90 plus players of people who are like right under that skill bracket. who are really good, and they're just making pickups amongst themselves, our teams amongst themselves, and they're getting pretty far, but they're just maybe that tier under those 12-ish players, but they're getting closer, I feel like, every single day.
Yeah, and speaking of the pickups, this is just like a random like side thing. I'm curious if like either after this league or at some point we'll see some of these, large groups of pickups turn into actual teams, because this is like the first time I feel like either ever or in a long time we've had a lot of teams that are mainly pickups and not solid uh groups of 4 or 5 that are competing under a repeated one team name, like a lot of other teams used to be for events.
I'd be very surprised if at least one of these pickups doesn't just full on say, you know what, we'll just be a team after this. Especially if they make finals. Like I feel like if you make finals, like you make top 4, you make the final bracket at the end of the 3 weeks, I feel like you just say, we did so well, why not just make a team?
Yeah.
Like even if it's like a mix of like EUNA, like obviously that doesn't work for world championships, assuming we get one, but beside that, you can still play with those people, and I feel like at that point you would just decide to play with them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of hoping we get some teams to show up, because I mean, like, or like some teams to form, like solid teams, because while pickups are fun and it's cool to see certain players and like the combinations be able to do so much and go so far, it would be nice to have dedicated teams to root for, as that's not like a part of like knowing those players as individuals, right? Because there's a lot of people that are probably watching these events and wondering like, oh, it's a cool team, let me look more into them, and it's like no team Twitter. It's just a bunch of individual players that kind of just mesh
Yeah,
all the
no team
time, and it's
Twitter.
like, oh, how do I really follow this team
The
when
players'
there's
ads on Twitter aren't even their tags or
yeah,
something
yeah.
random. The only thing they tweet about is what anime girls their favorite from Genshin or something.
Yeah. So it would be
So
cool to see if we could have teams start like forming, again at like this high level and be able to follow their stories.
Yep.
and again, I think that's my big hope with the league is that it brings back a form of just personality and like and obviously I'm not saying people in the community don't have personality, but it's very very hard, and I'm sure this could be its own topic by itself, to actually know players in this community if
Hmm.
you're not like interacting with them personally,
Yeah.
which I think sometimes hurts viewership and stuff like that, because why should I care who wins this event? For a lot of people, like when I watch I guess this is a good example, Valorant Champs, which just finished. Like I'm going into that clearly cheering for a team. Like I want Sentinels to win the event because I know who they are. I watch all their content, stuff like that.
Hmm.
Whereas, except for a couple few players, like I know Keo streams a lot, and then like Moonlight, maybe I don't know, maybe because Achara is very very content pilled. I know Omega basically makes at least like 2 videos a week or something, and then Shadowwind also makes stuff. So there's a couple teams like that where it's like people know the teams just because the teams, and like they'll follow that team in particular and all its members. But for a lot of people, it's just like I know these individual players, but other than that, I have no investment in them, I guess.
We love branding.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, branding does a lot. I think out of all the teams we have, aside like Moonlight as a solid team has been really building up the rankings, and I forget what tournament it was, but it was the tournament that really got their name out there, where they I think were close to beating or did beat some high top level pickup, or like had like a sub or two, and it really put them on the map. And of course, getting coached by Chara helps a little bit for the exposure, but like those players as individuals each have just such a unique personality to them, and it really like makes up that team. And like they're so like as a whole, like they're a friendly group, they are pretty chill, they always are active on their social medias, or whether it's streaming, whether it's on Twitter, whether it's anything you hear them from, you're gonna have a fun time listening to them and being able to have a one to root for. And I think out of all the teams that are competing, I think Moonlight definitely has a larger fan base that's rooting for them, because one, they're pretty much the underdogs a lot of times going into this, for how long they've been trying to get that number 1 spot for a while. But yeah, I mean, branding does a lot, and being able to have like that story attached to a team name rather than just a random pickup name is everything. to some people anyway.
Mm.
So I know this was touched up a little bit on before, but from the qualifiers, which was some more favorite moments that you had they were able to watch? Like, obviously that game 10 in the last chance qualifier was huge, was amazing, but were there any other maybe sets or games or moments that you saw that were happening and were like, that's really cool, or that's like, I love seeing that?
I like watching 10. So when what team was it? It was Bet and someone else.
BTDX and Moonlight have 10 players, but I think
Yeah, but
Shadow
there's
wins.
another team. Did they play?
Oh, you're thinking of Fluffy.
Yes. So
Or,
when
or
Black
Black
Lotus.
Bull, Black Bull, which changed into Fluffy X Back
Yeah.
Lotus.
So
Got
so
sponsored.
so by the way, Black Lotus got sponsored for anyone that
Which
doesn't know, which
huge
is
W for the Splatoon community with that.
absolutely that's so awesome and really sick. But when Fluffy faced Bet, it was two 10 players, and I like watching 10 gameplay. I enjoyed those sets that they played against each other. So that was fun for me personally, just because I like seeing 10.
The patch notes are up also. I don't know how, on
Wait, really?
Japanese.
There's patch
Yeah,
notes?
yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
we might have to have a
wowzers.
live patch note reaction here.
Where are they? Give me the link.
Well, they're up on Nintendo JP, so
Oh,
I'm
okay,
now
just
having to.
oh,
I now have to like navigate Nintendo JP. Hold on, wait.
yep.
Someone in chat does ask a great question. Is Black Lotus the first team to get sponsored since Set to Destroy X? So no, actually.
No, it would. I think the last big name sponsor was Red Sun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Red
In
Sun.
Control
In
sponsored them.
control,
They
Red
were
Sun.
they were the first Splatoon 3 team to get sponsored. I remember that.
Yep.
Yeah, because STDX got sponsored because they won that. Well, as people say, Mickey, it was still a world, but it was played on Splatoon 2, obviously, because of
Yeah.
the marketing thing.
I think
Oh,
what team had that
the English
as a
notes are up
sponsor?
also.
Yo, say less.
Give
What
me
was
the
that other
link.
team? There was another team that was sponsored recently. Like, it was after Red Sun. Didn't Nightmare
Fluffy's
get
the newest
sponsored
one. Yes, Nightmare was technically
for a
sponsored.
brief moment?
I think they were, they were sponsored for a bit, but
They were also sponsored by In Control, right?
No, they
no,
were
they were
sponsored by someone
sponsored
else.
by. I don't even remember.
It was so long ago. It's yeah, it was a long time
I
ago.
think they got their sponsor and then they disbanded like quickly after.
I think they lost players like almost immediately after.
All right, Marine, breaking news. We have patch notes.
You want me to read them out, or you want
Now
you?
I can read them out.
Oh yeah,
All
By all
go.
right,
means, read them and then
Squeezer. Um, slowed the speed of the fire shot pressed after pressing the ZR button by approximately 5%,
what?
and shortened its flight distance. So a big Squeezer nerf. Slowed movement speed by firing, while firing by approximately 8%. That's some pretty big nerfs there. Range Blaster got radius of explosion damage by 6%, so that's a nerf. And it also got a paint nerf as well, I guess.
Dude,
So
RIP Blaster players, they're fighting
Range
their
Blaster.
lives.
Ooh, Snipe Rider. That's a big one.
Slightly
That's
decreased
the width of spray droplets created by shots. That is a painting nerf.
What, I have to say something about Slosher. Oh, Slosher players are gonna have it out for me, dude.
That's Snipe Rider.
Slosher.
Oh yeah, Slosher got a nerf. Ink consumption.
9% in consumption. That won't matter as
Wow.
much.
Heavy
That-
edit paint nerf. Why?
I think cooler. It's
Well
probably
screen paint nerf. Man, why they gotta do well screen like that?
Yo,
Kaizuka
That's
got
so
nerfed.
bad.
I'm shocked Zuka got another nerf.
Wait. Someone said they buffed the net code.
There's no way.
It's
Farzuka
probably
increased the amount of time between activation and becoming able to fire by 1/12 of a second. Oh, so it's gonna have
Whoa.
like it's gonna have delay time close to like reef sliding. That's actually crazy.
I think that puts it. What is that? I mean, it's not. I don't think it's fully in line with. Oh yeah, that's right. The banner got changed. but we don't know what it looks like.
CRB and Slosher raised their points per special to 210. Crying.
I mean, that's all good. This is unironically a good patch. I don't think there's anything wrong in here where I'm like, man.
Oh,
this is
Trizuka nerf too.
Yeah, and
Uh,
one off of a second delay before you can shoot now.
Wait. Made it so that Japan and regions near it cannot select Tentitech division when selecting an X Battles division.
oh, so Japanese players can't go to NA.
Yeah, they can't go to NA for the free top 10 badge because they're win trading for it. Because if you check the leaderboards, it's actually kind of crazy.
Wow.
Dang. Wait, but nothing for the other way around though. So NA is free to go.
NA is still allowed to go, yes.
But they're like, NA, you're not that good yet. Keep trying.
Yeah.
I think they're just trying to stop Japanese players from throwing in NA lobbies for the top 10 badge.
For real.
This is actually a crazy patch. This is actually a really good patch.
There's even explanations for everything. Yeah,
So I want to know, what did they change the design of the splash tag to? So now I'm curious.
We won't know till we can install the patch. Because then it will be.
I bet they just change it back to the default.
It's probably default Inklings, yeah.
Well, guess what? You could watch the first week of 20XX and see players live trying to figure out.
That's right.
What are the changes to the meta after the patch?
You heard it here first. Tune in Sunday.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think this change, because that was also one of the things we discussed. So I guess we can say this now. One of the things I asked today was, what do we do if for some reason like new weapons got shadow dropped in the patch update? Would we stop them from being used week 1, or would we let them use it? And I guess we don't have them now, but I feel like teams just stick with their comps week 1, because after that's Riptide week, and we're taking a break obviously because I know some teams are going to Riptide, so they won't be free. So that gives them 2 weeks after this first week to figure it out.
Oh wow, these changes happening before Riptide's actually crazy.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. I'm very, very curious to see how the meta unfolds for this. And I think we're in a position where as the weeks go along, we'll see it kind of change live a little bit. I don't think any drastic changes, but I could see some players maybe not play Slosher as much or Squeezer as much. We'll see how badly the nerfs affect everything.
I'm really curious for Squeezer, because Squeezer is a really good spot right now in the meta. And considering like its movement speed got slowed by 8%, its firing speed got
the movement
shortened.
Speed is fixable because they could just run movement subs. I think the big thing's gonna be how slow is the shot now.
Yeah, they also shortened its flight distance, so I'm wondering how much of a distance they shortened it by, because they didn't say.
Yeah, is that a range? That's a range nerf.
Yeah, because like they say like the shot speed was decreased by 5%, but not how much the flight speed was shortened by. So I'm curious, what its range has changed to now.
Oh, there's something at the bottom actually. This isn't the final patch.
Oh.
It says the next update will focus on adding data for the Grand Festival. So we have to get a patch. We have to get a patch literally a week from now. So we might actually still be getting more content. Okay.
Copium.
I mean, I think it's copium, but I'm now slightly more hopeful, because I feel like if they were just not gonna, like, if there was nothing that they didn't want us to see, they would just add all the Grand Festival data at the exact time now. But that means they're hiding something.
What are you hiding, Nintendo? What do you not want us to see?
And then it's just gonna be like an extra splash pack.
Yeah.
Third kits, maybe? The dream? Maybe?
Yeah, that's gonna stay a dream. I'm not buying it. I really hope the netcode changes are actually helpful. I'm very curious by that.
Yeah, because I feel like, I feel like usually the updates make the connectivity worse. Like, I feel like it's only gotten worse as they've done updates. So the fact that they're saying, hey, we fixed something, I'm very curious what they fixed. Also, they did indeed. they did indeed nerf. They only nerfed things actually. They didn't buff a single thing.
I mean, I'll give them props. They stayed true to what they said last patch. So
They said we're going to mainly nerf stuff, and they quite literally meant only nerf stuff, and they also only nerfed, I would say, like the top what. And all of these weapons are probably top 10, except Wellstring,
Wellstring.
which Wellstring's annoying. So I think nerfing it is fine because I think most people agreed it was overtuned slightly. I think the big thing that's missing for me, and I wonder now if this is going to show up more in the league, is 52 Gal.
that's true. Yeah, people were hoping for a
Splash Wall,
50
not even
nerf.
Splash Wall got like people were saying Splash Wall getting
Yeah.
slightly nerfed would hurt, but it didn't get touched at all. So I almost wonder with Zuka being nerfed, so no, you don't want V shot as much. Squeezer's gone, or well, Squeezer's not gone, but now it's nerfed. And a lot of these things that maybe 52 struggled with not being as good. I wonder if 52 shows up again because 52 was already used during crawl. Like 52 is already a popular pick, so I almost wonder if it's more popular now.
It might be depending on how drastic this Trizuka nerf might feel for like shooter players. I wonder if 52 is just we're gonna see an increase in 52 and like some players switch more to using like End Splash or T-Tech for strikes, or other shooters because like especially if Squeezer is getting taken out of the play, I wonder if we'll see also an increase in Sword because I know Sword and Squeezer went like kind of neck and
Actually,
neck.
yeah. I think we won't see an increase in Sword for the league because Sword. I don't think people are picking up Sword in 2 weeks for one.
True. Unless they already play it, then in that case,
Yeah,
it's
like maybe if you were already playing it, you look at it more now. Like, okay, well maybe Sword's better. The Snipe Rider nerf, I'm unsure about because wow, I need to see one how less it paints now, and two, they didn't nerf its points for specials also, which
Yeah.
maybe doing both at the same time would be overkill. And as a Splatoon 2 player, I'm used to overkill nerfs. The 230p inkjet on T-Tech was iconic. So I'm very curious if we see more cooler from like you said, NZAP. Obviously, Heavy Edit also got slightly nerfed on its paint also, so clearly they wanted to stop Snipe Rider and Heavy Edit from being basically the only two cooler options. So
Yeah.
maybe we see NZAP's probably the big one, but I would like to see Tri-Slosher sneak in there personally. And now, especially because all the mid lines got nerfed, I think there's a bigger argument for Tri-Slosher.
Yeah, the Tri-Slosher one is interesting. I know people have complained about the Blaster one for a while, so that one makes sense. But the Slosher one is interesting. Increase the amount of
Slosher
ink
one,
consumed by 9%.
I don't think matters as so. There's like explanations. Basically, the idea was that Slosher could paint for too long, or like in extended fights lasted for way too long for how good it was, which is probably true. I don't know how many shots Slosher has now. I think it's like 14. I think this puts it at like 12 with no investment. So like it lost like 2 shots, which I don't think will matter for most players. I think it's just less forgiving now, which is probably fine. And then I mean everything else I think was warranted. I mean I'll stand by it. Wellstring was annoying and overtuned. And like, yeah, it wasn't like, a top tier weapon or anything, but it was seeing, I think it got second in the Area Cup in Japan. I know Chara was experimenting with it.
Yeah.
So I think Wellstring just losing some of the paint from the impact. It didn't even lose its most annoying thing, which is like the thing, it just doesn't paint your feet as well, which I think is fine.
I need top level to show me these changes this Sunday for the 20XX groups. Because this is going to be interesting. Now, a lot of players are going to probably tune in to see like if this changes how these top players react to it, right? Because like that's how most things change as it goes down the bracket of like skill level. Is that whatever top level kind of does, it influences mid and then mid level and low level can be anything from influence to I'm gonna run Neo Sploosh. So it's it's just gonna be interesting to see. I'm glad we actually got these kind of nerfs because now it really makes things interesting.
Yeah.
And I think, like you said, that's another thing too. I know a lot of top players who, didn't play in the league because maybe they're tired of don't are because they were tired of the meta, and they were like, well, they don't change anything. This changes a lot.
Yeah,
Maybe not to the point where we're getting like a new meta per se, but this opens up a lot of opportunities where there are weapons that were already performing well regardless just from one tricks,
yeah,
but now they're maybe not, now their counters are worse, so now they can do even better. Like I think a big one for me as a Tetra main is Tetras. Tetras were already seeing some use in Japan, and pretty much every single weapon that got nerfed counter Tetra in some way, or wasn't the best matchup. All of them are now worse, especially being worse with ink efficiency is a big one.
hmm
So I think we're gonna see, maybe, obviously maybe not, they won't play in this league, but like I know the IPL league's happening. If we ever host another one, we might see more teams try to at least show up and play in events again, or players that weren't as active. Like I want to play more now.
yeah. I mean, you know what? I think I'll finally
Whoa,
stop
that's a
complaining
crazy
about
statement,
getting shot
Baha.
by blaster players.
Yeah, I'll also stop dying to X rank TC won't be the literally 5 range
Yeah,
blasters.
I was gonna say people might reconsider it now.
People might instead decide to play V Blaster, which
Yeah,
still getting
yeah,
still 5 V Blasters in the lobby, but it's not as annoying.
yeah.
I think we're gonna see a lot of Neo Splash. I think that's a big W,
I
just
was
because
gonna
of
say, yeah.
pencil
Actually,
nerf,
wait, that's true.
and slosher nerf. So like,
You're gonna
I
need a
I, I feel like
dedicated painter, like pure, like 2,000
yeah.
paint per game. And I
Well, that's
know,
what you're gonna do with Neo Splash anyways. So
yeah. So
like,
it's gonna be really like, but most people like were never use it as like the full necessity because it's like, oh yeah, I got pencil. But considering
mm,
if pencil and now slosher too is like the paint output's not as increased as it was, like it's almost gonna be a guarantee. It could potentially be a guarantee most teams are gonna want to have that Neo Splash for heavy paint.
yep. And Zuka lag nerfed as well.
That's true.
So
No more panic popping Zuka. The
yep.
Carbon fans are fighting right now.
Carbon Roller will be fine.
The main weapon,
Oh,
yeah, panic popping Zuka, they're gonna fight demons.
So, like, if anything, Carbon Roller is probably the one Zuka weapon that isn't hurt by that nerf that much, to be honest. I think
Yeah,
the big one is B shot.
yeah,
definitely shot. And maybe Squeezer a little bit because it also got nerfed a little bit. Maybe you might see a little bit more screen. I could see that happening, but I still think we'll see a good amount of Squeezer. But I think shot will probably. I think we'll see a good amount of shots replaced with splash
I feel like
for
this
sure.
makes shot a little bit more like, because I know shot in the meta has been going a little bit more supportive, especially with the rise of 52. So I'm wondering if people do pick shot, it's definitely gonna be played a lot more passively for properly timed Zuka usage. Um, just like how like when Crab was finally getting nerfed and kind of dwindling out, it was instead of Crab being popped anywhere and everywhere because you could
It
literally
was,
live
yeah, it was popping at the
anything.
right time.
Yeah, now it's like you got to be really strategic with how you pop your Crab.
Which, I mean, was always the complaint, was that it felt like you were randomly dying across the map if someone just decided to pop your special at random.
Yeah, and now with Zuka, you might have to think a little bit more strategic from that nerf from when you pop it to when you can use it. Which I know that was also a big complaint because like people would hear it, but then immediately as soon as they hear the Zuka, it's like
You
I'm dead
died
already.
anyway.
Yeah, I'm dying.
Yeah.
I'm dead already. So now you have
Like
time to
you
like hear it, look for it, and it's like okay, I know where this is coming from. I could dodge it now.
So, at least in regards to the league, I'm actually very, very happy that things are seemingly changing.
Yeah,
Like I think this is the first. I want to say the first patch, at least in a year, probably since this game came out, depending on who you ask, where I don't think there's a single change where it doesn't make sense in my mind, or where I'm like, well, why didn't they change this? I guess
yeah,
like the only thing that maybe some people will say is missing is 52, but even then, 52 to me is one of those weapons where 52 is very, what's the word? Just naturally good because it's a two-shot short range weapon. So like it's just a design thing where 52 just naturally fits well into its design.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, especially with like, um, I've been learning 52 myself a lot and being and just trying to test out both regular and the deco version, and like as a whole that weapon can be really good in either. 52 with wall can create space, take space, and if using your wall properly and you're not dying to a bomb at it, you're able to make it hard for players to have to move forward. But on the other hand, with the 52 deco, I feel you could be a lot more like sploosh playstyle where like you can use your curling to either have that extra little bit of paint or steamroll in, especially because you're a two-shot and you're able to immediately take players out. That's why I've seen players with the 52 gal deco run a lot of like opening gambit sometimes as the experiment, whether it's in comp or mainly in like X rank or whatever, because it just has the ability to kind of like hold forward, having that curling bomb, and of course screen depending on the mode, like that could be really good.
Yeah, I mean, Pat pointed this out in chat also. There's no catalog data, actually, which is probably what's going to be included with the Grand Festival patch. So, again, excuse me, sorry, I had to
No, you're good.
sneeze.
No
Oh
worries.
my god. I'm very curious what is happening. And obviously we've been saying it's a good time to be a competitive Splatoon fan, but with this patch and stuff, I think it's just a good time to be a Splatoon fan, especially if maybe you've been, I'll say myself, I've been kind of doomer about Splatoon 3 sometimes. So I think it's just nice to have something like with the league and with this where it just seems like everyone's like just happy, like no one's complaining for once.
Yeah, no, definitely. Pat does actually bring up a good point. The Splatfest patch will probably be too late for the new season.
They'll just
So
delay it, in my opinion. I
I
don't
wouldn't be
think that means
surprised.
anything.
I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if they change it up and give like a post Splatfest catalog.
They have to do the infinite catalog. There's no way they don't, because they need to
Yeah.
make it so people can unlock stuff somehow, whether it be just infinite catalog gives out shell out machine tickets or whatnot.
Yeah. Give out some kind of way to keep players somewhat invested until they inevitably potentially announce Splatoon 4. I don't even want to imagine
I
what they
don't
would.
think
I don't want to
I don't
imagine what
think
that would happen.
Splatoon 4 next year, I believe.
you still think it's next year? I think it's the year after. I think it's announced next
I think it
year.
would be awesome if it came out next year.
I think it's announced next year.
If they go off of the plan I think they were originally aiming for, like where it's like every 2 to 3 years, I think releasing it next year is not terrible. But I think I'd like it if they took
Technically,
their time and did it like early 2025 or 2026.
didn't someone check though, like the Splatoon 3 like credits, and like they're missing several notable members who worked on S2. Like I think S3 is mostly new hires, if I remember, at least for like major stuff. So I mean, again, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we all know S3 got delayed at least a year. It was probably going to be what, 2021.
Yeah, and then with like the rise of like, the pandemic, it probably slowed a lot of that progress down. And I wouldn't be surprised if like they end up scrapping a lot and just kind of redoing things.
Maybe just they were like, well, we might as well just do this for Splatoon 4 on the new console because we're getting that next year,
Yeah.
instead of
Yeah.
putting it on this when at that they would have knew long by then that the new console was on the way, and would have been probably told that they should their next projects were going to that. So
Yeah, and I think there's also like I'm pretty sure there was an interview with Nogami where it was like the minute the Splatfest results were in is when they started like um brainstorming how they wanted Splatoon 3 to look, because of like that was the final fest for that game, and
yeah,
and that was going to change the directory of how Splatoon 3 was going to look. So
and I'm sure for Splatoon 4 they probably, at least because I don't think whatever team's gonna win is gonna affect the game that much outside of like a couple maps, and I think the single player is the big one.
Yeah, single player was the biggest. It's definitely the biggest kind of, and the like overall design too of like kind of like the plazas, the main story, player design. You know how that's gonna look depending on how probably this fest goes.
And like you can have your writer write multiple scenarios depending on which team wins.
Yeah.
So they don't even necessarily have to wait till the fest. Like I'm sure one of the writers probably has a here's what happens if future wins, what past win, present wins, stuff like that.
Yeah, which that's got me wondering. Obviously, like that's for another day, but how they would move forward with that, because like past, present, and future, that's gonna be a fun one.
I guess what team are you picking out of curiosity? I haven't chose yet.
I haven't chose either because it's so hard to figure out because I love like the idea behind all of them, and it's like because each one has that whole like like enjoy the present, remember the past, look forward to the future, things like that, and it's like then of course the people are choosing based off the idols for each one, and I'm just like, man, I don't know, this is this is hard.
Nah.
When is the final fest again? Is it like after Riptide?
I think it's Riptide week. Hold on.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's
It might be Riptide Week.
if it's Riptide weekend, I'm gonna
Which
cry.
they always do this.
That's a certified
Man,
classic.
No. It's not Riptide week. It's the weekend after. It's
Okay.
September. It's September 13th through the 16th. That's right, because when we were planning this, one of the things we were like, oh wait, we're meeting with Final Fest. I'm like, we're on the last day of Final Fest. Those teams will be tired of playing Splatfest at that point. People will
Also,
watch.
if anything, the interest from Final Fest that will gain will just help us more than anything. Because more
I think-
people will be watching the silly Splatoon game on Twitch.
Yeah, and competing in events too itself. So for our tournament organizers are gonna have a huge increase in competitive players joining in because like you can only get so much fest, especially because now the fest is 3 days long. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I will say
62
that
hours.
they're doing some crazy stuff for that fest. I give them credit. They're trying some new things out with like the stages and whatnot.
Yes.
There's that big run. Is that no? Okay, that's the not. Okay, that's doing Riptide. I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. It's the
That
Riptide
big run.
weekend.
So I feel bad for people at Riptide. I'm sure people will be trying to use setups for that to play that big run.
It's gonna be a classic hotel room meetup to order
Actually,
pizza
wait.
and play a big run.
Oh, that's not good. Actually, hold on. But
Well,
remember that update? Yeah,
well,
that's gonna come out during Riptide.
that's
No,
funny.
I remember the Wi-Fi at that Kalahari is not good. From when I attended.
Best of luck to all Riptide players.
And I'm sure if you update your game, then you probably can't connect to the other people's PBs, so that's gonna be a trip.
Oh boy. It's gonna be a fun time to be a Splatoon fan on Riptide weekend. Although you know what, most players I feel like aren't even gonna be playing their Switch that much besides the competing, unless you have until you have like those players that grind the game no matter what, especially because big run. So hotspots come out.
Someone's gonna offer their hotspot to let everyone update. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
All right, should we get back with some
Yeah,
of the
Yeah, you know what?
final questions?
We could get back to wrapping things up because we are pretty much almost done with the questions I had. One of the last questions I had here was compared to previous 20XX events, how does this one rate up to those? Now I know there's a huge factor in this, and that's the fact that this was a league, but a couple things were different this time. Both, of course, how it was ran and also where it was ran, and just in general. From teams competing to numbers, like how would you rate this 20XX league compared to the other events?
I personally, okay, so it is a lot more work, as we've kind of mentioned before, but I also kind of like it a lot more. Obviously it's not finished yet because we have the whole league section to go, and we'll see how that goes, everything. But so far, at least I feel like I prefer this more than just doing the regular 2-day event. Obviously, the 2-day event is shorter, but I feel like this is a lot more rewarding, a lot more interesting, at least for me.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I'll agree with Litblu. I think overall this is more interesting just because there's more to look forward to compared to like a regular 2x because it just goes longer. So, I have matches to look forward to for the next month and then a grand finals as well. So,
That's awesome. I mean, yeah, this is definitely obviously vastly different from just a one weekend major. This allowed for more viewership, more stories to tell. This allowed for more rivalries to build up. This allowed for kind of more like wonder and mystery about who's gonna qualify, what they're gonna like when are they gonna qualify, if they compete. I mean, there's so much more that this brought to the table than just your regular old major, and I think that it came at honestly such a good time too. Just when like a lot of players just kind of felt like there's not nothing to look forward to. There's not a lot to watch. You're running into your same weeklies, every month, and it's just at a point where it's like a little stale. So this brought a longevity of enjoyment for the comp scene that we haven't had in a while because majors, of course, again, only one weekend and they're every couple months and things slow down. But this stretched it out. This allowed for a lot more fun, a lot more streams for the players and, of course, for productions. And I mean, overall, just a great experience. And with that, that's really, I think, everything that I had to ask about the
Ooh,
league thus
ooh,
far. Oh, yes?
wait,
Secrets?
we gotta make our predictions.
Yes. Predictions for the league. Now, do you want to do predictions based on groupings or just in general where teams
I
will.
think like I think we should do like a top three. Like, what's our
Okay,
top
yes,
three
yes,
teams?
yes.
So, I'll go first since I mentioned it.
Absolutely. I gotta pull up Sendo anyway to find the teams.
Yeah. Pull up the teams. Pull up the teams. Um,
hold on. I'll send you something. This will
yeah,
probably help you.
yeah. Bao's got the sauce.
Yo, let's
Um,
go.
so my personal top three, and I'm gonna do this in order just to make it extra spicy. Put it out there. Um, I think third place is gonna be Metro. I
Okay.
think second place is Celeste. I think first place is Grogru. And I think that's our top three. I think Celeste is gonna really do a lot of really good things. Um, but I think Grogu's just a little bit better. I feel like that team is when they're locked in and when they are trying, because sometimes they don't try, but when they're actually trying their best, I feel like they're just really hard to put down. Um, they just have great chemistry, and you have like essentially the just like you have four of the top like 10 players in the West on that team essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And then like second Celeste, I think Celeste is really strong. I think they're putting in a lot of work. I think they're grinding a lot. I think they're gonna get second, and then obviously Metro, who won Super Jump. They're a really interesting team. I honestly, I do think they probably get grand finals, and I have them at third. But it's been a long time since Super Jump. You know, that was all the way back in July. It's gonna be a month and a half between that tournament and the first week of the league, and even longer. It's gonna be 2 months between that and the finals. So I'm curious to see how they do, but I think they got a lot of strong players and strong folks on that team. I like their comp a lot. I think their comp a lot works well together. So I think we'll see them make the top three as well. Now I am curious to see what y'all are gonna pick for your top three.
I guess I'll go next so
Absolutely.
Cactus can cap it off.
You got it.
I'm gonna go number one Metro.
Okay.
Uh, number two, I have three picks.
Does
I'm
there
gonna
only be one second place?
okay. I'm gonna be different. I'm gonna say Grogu, and then I'm
Okay.
gonna go with number three is gonna be Moonlight. I'm gonna go with that.
Whoa,
Okay. Okay.
I think
whoa.
if Moonlight makes it to the what is it to to the finals, I think they at least get third. I don't think they get fourth if they make it to finals. And then I'm actually gonna list a fourth as my dark horse team. I'm gonna go with Dat Kid Fan Club.
Okay.
I think Celeste actually doesn't make it, and I think
Ooh.
Celeste doesn't make it
Wow.
only, and this is only if the 3 teams in their group lock in on practicing. Because I'm very curious, because I don't know how much Celeste practices. I assume they practice a bunch, but I think if the other 3 teams in their group practice more, I think Celeste actually gets third in their group.
My problem with Dat Kid is not that they're bad. They're definitely a good team. They're strong. I just think they're unorganized, so I don't know what to expect. Like
I
are
think
they actually
honestly that unorganization. I think that unorganization might work to their benefit because like people will be expecting like with Metro and with Celeste, since they're Metro's case they're a pretty consistent pickup and Celeste is a team, but you can watch sets of them playing and get an idea of their play style and what they're gonna do. What are you supposed to look at for Dat Kid Fan Club besides obviously the qualifier? Like there's not that, like you can't study your opponent in this case, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I can look up 20,000 videos of Moonlight playing and figure out maybe an idea of how they're gonna play. And obviously, I'm sure Moonlight's coming up with new strategies. I'm not gonna use the exact same things, but I can still get people's play styles still generally have a basic idea behind them. So I feel like in that sense, Dat Kid Fan Club has the benefit of no one knows what they play like.
I like it. I love these. So man, I'm looking at the teams that we have here, and this is like it's really processing for me now how stacked this this event is.
a lot of great teams?
So I
That's-
think yeah, there's a lot of great teams here. All right, so for my number 3 spot, I'm gonna give it to Henlo Fan Club. For my number 2 spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Celeste. And number 1, I gotta go with Gru.
You don't think Metro makes top 3?
So I thought about
That's a
this, right?
spicy meatball.
Because Metro, while like heck of a performance, incredible team, I feel like they've, besides like scrims and practices, right? Like I feel like there's something like what Litblu was saying. Celeste, if they just lock in, can destroy. Like 100%. I feel like if I put Metro anywhere, it's definitely number 4. Because like not for nothing, like Black Lotus, great team. Dat Kid Fan Club, great team, but also their pickup. But Black Lotus, with a lot of their recent performances, haven't been performing to the level that I feel like we used to see them at. Especially with a lot of these teams coming up. So Celeste just, if they, I feel like they take second only behind Gru because of the players of Gru when they play locked in. I mean,
that's true. I will say a Kyo that's locked in.
A locked in Kyo is a nightmare. Yeah,
yeah.
Like you will literally, like, he's not just beating you in the game, he's beating you in life next. Like Kyo is an incredible player, and especially with the roster that they have following it with Gray, Obito, and Biscuit. I mean, like, they played so well. I mean, the only time they lost games was to Celeste. And I feel like that's a situation where it's going to probably be a similar scenario. It's going to be Gru against Celeste again. They're fighting for that number 1 spot, and Gru is just going to have the upper hand. Now, I put Henlo Fan Club at number 3 because for whatever reason, they have incredible performances. I don't know what they're on. I don't know what they have figured out, but whatever it is they're taking teams and taking games a lot more consistently than a lot of other pickups. And it's not just in your average like weeklies either. Like they're performing really well overall, and it's kind of scary to see how a pickup like this is doing. It's like rising these rankings. But I don't think they have enough to take it any home higher than that. As for all the other teams, they're getting there, especially because like I want to believe in Moonlight so much, but I feel like it's just they're not done cooking just yet. It's you need to leave them in the oven just a little bit longer, and I think maybe next major they got it. I think that if they are going to Riptide, I believe I think they are, right.
I
If
saw
you check the
3 of them on
reports,
a roster.
yeah.
I think one of them was missing, so they're either playing 3 out of 4. I think all 4 are attending.
So I think if there's an opportunity for them to start showing up or to show up like a huge win, I think it's Riptide. Depending on who else goes, obviously, but like I think they have a strong chance at finishing #1 this time, especially after their performance at LTC. Most of their members came to Gridlock, finishing in second. So that's another like their back-to-back seconds. I feel like the third time's the charm. But when it comes to for this event, I feel like at most they're following. Maybe they follow right behind Metro for a 5th or 6th placement.
I was a little surprised by when you picked Henlo to get third.
Yeah, it's
I was a
definitely
little
just off
surprised
their
that.
performance.
I mean,
like lately.
honestly, I will say, because of how stacked the tournament is, and groups will be revealed, I think, on Friday. Henlo Fan Club's group is probably better for them over the other group.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is one group that I think is harder than the other one.
And
yeah.
sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like without spoiling anything, like taking a look at it, I definitely think I agree. One group is going to be a lot more. I think it's going to be more entertaining by how the games are probably going to go the distance. Like those sets are probably going to go the distance in one of these groups. The other one though, I agree, it's really favored to just like one or two teams. They're just going to take the rest out.
And yeah, I definitely think Henlo Fan Club, and in fact, I'll just say in their group in particular, I think all 4 teams. I think there's one team in there that's just an auto qual. I think the other spot is an even up for grabs between all 3. Like
Yeah, no, I can
almost
agree to
perfectly
that.
even.
Yeah.
So yeah. Is there okay? I guess just to ask, who do you think has the worst chance of getting? Just because I'm curious. To start
Who's gonna be
who's the loser of this?
No, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna start it, and I'm gonna say this right now. For any of the teams that might be watching this, by all means, take this clip and turn it into like some crazy montage edit for Twitter. But the worst chance, like, so basically, the team's gonna like finish last, pretty much.
Like worst set record and like obviously like group stuff, or like worst record total.
I think worst set record for me, I gotta go between 2. That's Black Lotus and BTDX.
Real okay.
And I say so for
you
BTDX.
Explain Black Lotus kind of already. Why BTD? I'm curious about BTDX.
For BTDX, I feel like it's anytime if there's ever a time they show up, it's literally only a major. And every time they show up for a major, it's very rare they get very, very far. I low-key was kind of shocked they even qualified.
That's fair.
Because usually they're out within like the 3rd or 4th round, getting knocked into losers, and then they go maybe 2 more further, and then they're out again. So I don't maybe it's because they brought in Andy to the roster. Shout out Power, my GOAT, Metro Inc. GOAT, world champion GOAT. But it's just kind of like, unless somehow with having Power changes the stars aligning for them, I think they're gonna have probably one of the worst performances going into this. I think they take games. I don't think they take sets.
You think they go 0-3 in their group?
I think they're gonna. I think their closest will be with one of the other teams, like maybe 1.
Okay.
Um,
But you think they go at least 1-2? It's
at,
either 1-2 or
I
0-3.
think at max 1-2 at
Okay.
max. Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
admit I also kind of agree that my lowest was bet as well. No offense, like I feel bad,
But
but it's just like
it's reasonable though.
it is reasonable just looking at the other teams. I just feel like the other teams are a little more interesting, and I think the other teams are just a little more consistent.
Yeah.
You know, I'm we'll see. Of course, I think their group is a little tighter. I think it's a little closer. So maybe they can pull away with some wins, but I just feel like the other teams are gonna beat them.
Hmm.
Um, that would probably be my number 8.
I kind of low key agree, and I think again VTX's thing is that they just kind of show up to like they play every big tournament, obviously, and they always get like fifth, fourth, but they never really get outside of that. Like sometimes, like I don't think I've ever watched a BTDX match where they're top two, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, absolutely.
Uh, if we're excluding BTDX, I want to say that kid fan club,
Okay.
but
Weren't
I
they your dark
also
horse?
okay. So that kid fan club to me is gonna go one of two ways. They're either gonna get rolled, and I want to make it very clear. I'm friends with Nilla, I'm friends with Humo, I'm friends with people on that team,
Hmm.
and I will be in the chat where they are probably talking if they get rolled or if they win. So in that case, if they win, please call me an idiot. I think that kid fan club goes one of two ways. They either get absolutely rolled. I'm talking like five like 4-0'd all their sets, like GG's go next, or no one expects them to like really prepare, and like teams go into it like, this is an easy win, we don't even gotta bother, and then they get rolled. And
Mhm.
then they're like, oh shoot, we actually got to start trying, and then like the set's really close, and maybe that kid pulls it out in that case.
Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah, I'm gonna say the team that's probably my least likely is BTDX. But that's also just because maybe I'm the most unfamiliar with them. Like even with I know you mentioned Black Lotus, I feel like they, especially now that they have that sponsor, which I think would give them more motivation, maybe because they want to, they want to show out for the sponsor.
I mean,
I feel
no
like
no
that
hate
might.
to their sponsor, but I think the next day there was a major they played in and they like
I,
lost immediately. And I felt so bad for them. It was like
okay.
right
To be
after the
fair, I
sponsor.
think to be fair, I think unironically that's like a curse in like some
Yeah.
communities where it's
Yeah.
like you get sponsored, so now you have to immediately lose.
Yeah, no,
So
you're
like
right.
getting it
Yeah,
out of the way now is probably better
you're
in
right.
that case. So, and I think now, especially maybe going into that first major, and you just immediately got sponsored, so you might feel pressured a little
Yeah.
bit too much. And
Yeah.
now you're like, okay, the pressure's off. Let's go back to work. But yeah, I think in that case, BTDX and that kid are probably my two things. BTDX more than that kid. That kid sort of my depends on how well they prepare. And from what I know, they are preparing. So
Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. I think honestly, I'm looking at the qualifiers now because I want to like back up a little bit for the bet decision. So they played in the first qualifier and they um lost 0-3 to Duck Motif and sent down the losers bracket. They 2-0 in round 4. They 2-1 round 5. Get immediately destroyed 2-0 by Moonlight in round 6, and then
okay,
they're out. They come back second qualifier, and again with like I think just literally the only player they added to the roster and changed around was Power.
power.
It literally was just having Power, and they start off strong round 1, 2-0, lose a game to a team called Applebee's for 3-1. They are able
Okay.
to beat Duck Motif 3-1.
So Duck Motif barely lost then.
Yeah,
And in which case, I guess would Duck Motif have been my least favorite if they were in here? Because they got fourth
yeah,
three times.
yep. And the second qualifier, it's funny enough, they got sent to fourth by Bet.
Yeah.
So they rematched
So
in loser semis.
okay. But did they get double limbed by bet?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
oh,
So
okay,
yeah.
that just sucks.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's just
Yeah.
unfortunate. All
Yeah.
right.
Bet took him out, and then Bet had went down to losers because they fought the Black Lotus. Then they reversed it to 3-1 in finals of losers against Black Lotus, sending themselves to Grand. So I don't know what they figured out in losers bracket, but they were able to turn it around.
I do know BTDX. I don't think Power's Power's on their roster. I don't know if Power's
Actually,
playing. Actually, no, Power
Power,
left the roster. That's right.
Power,
They
yeah,
got a
yeah,
sub.
yeah.
Okay, so I mean, for this kind of okay, I mean, unless whoever they keep on their roster now, it like locks them in and they're able to perform well. But I mean, looking at the performances from the qualifiers, it seems Power had the magic touch and they were like locked in. But we'll see. We'll see. Anything can happen.
I know. Okay, I guess I can say who their sub is. It's Snipe Z.
Okay.
So I know Snipes is really good. When I was in +2, I would play with them a lot, or they would just be hanging out. So I'm sure they're practicing again. I'm curious because obviously I think even Popgun said this on his podcast. The big thing was Power being there, like and them qualifying. So I'm very
Yeah.
curious if Snipe Z works well with them, like Power seemingly did.
Yeah,
And
we'll see if they need him.
one thing to kind of reveal a little secret, is that all of the commentators for 20XX will be giving their predictions as well every single week.
Oh, I love that.
So that's going to be a fun little game. We're going to keep track of that and see who's the commentator champ.
Remember,
To see
it's
who gets the
okay
best
to call them
predictions.
stupid if they're wrong. No, I'm joking. Please don't bully them.
Oh man.
But yeah, the commentators are having a fun little game predicting who sets each week, so that will be fun for stream to see. But yeah, I think is there any other questions, or is that it for the
I
most
mean,
part?
besides that, for me personally, that's all I had. Unless there's anything else that we need to go over, but I think that's everything. This is the moment where the floor is yours. Shout out what you'd like to shout out. Thanks you'd like to thank. It's all yours.
I guess I'll say the same thing as last one. You can follow me on Twitter at Baha Shiro. And then that's all I really use. Other than that, go follow the Dapple Productions, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, stuff like that. The matches I think they'll be on YouTube within at least the streams will be on YouTube within a day of them happening. So if you miss them, they'll be on YouTube. You can always catch it. And just please watch the league. I think it'll be a fun time regardless. I think we'll have some very interesting sets, and if nothing else, I think the beef in quotes and trash talk from this will be very, very funny.
We do have a channel on the 20XX League private server called Beef Corner. So we'll see if anything fun comes from that. But in terms of myself, follow me at Litblu Rocker. That's LITBLUROCKER on Twitter, and watch 20XX League. It starts Monday, and it goes for the rest of the month. So get hyped, get ready, get your orange juice and your popcorn. It's gonna be a fun time.
Your orange juice and your popcorn.
Heck yeah,
You
that's the
know.
combo of champions right there.
All right. See, now I'm gonna have to try that at some point because that's a crazy combo. But yeah. I mean, couldn't said it better myself. Tune in this Sunday for the start of the groups for the top 8 teams that qualify for the 20XX League. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss out on the hype. FOMO will hit you like a truck. You got to be there. You got to watch it. Keep up with Dapple. Of course, social medias on Twitch, Twitter, you name it. It's going to be exciting to see. We're going to have a lot of great matches. And that pretty much does it for this episode of the Cactus Patch. Thank you, huge thank you actually to Litblu and Baha for coming on once again to discuss the event, the qualifiers as a whole, and give us some fun insight on not only the league itself going into the final groups, but also the patch notes that we had dropped mid-episode. That was fun to talk about and see how that was going to change, maybe potentially change up things about the league's comps that we're going to see. But with that being said, I was your host, Cactus. Thank you all again for watching, and we'll see you next time at the next episode.